Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The transfer portal starting to get extremely active in a particular position that is really standing out to me is the wide receiver spot. There's not only solid wide receivers that are currently entering the transfer portal, some legitimate difference makers that are hitting the portal. And I think it's a result of just not so good quarterback play from across the country, making a lot of these wide receivers hit the portal. If you are a team that needs a difference maker at wide receiver heading into 2025, you better get active. And it's a good year to be looking for one too, because we're going to talk about my favorite 10 wide receivers in the portal. I left off some really good wide receivers as well. We'll continue to, update the transfer portal entries as it continues to go. I think it's important to note, I mean, December 9th, that's when it officially opens. We are already seeing it get extremely active. Fired up to get into this one. Now, before we do, and as always, I think most importantly, look, a lot of good football players hitting the transfer portal. Would love to hear some names from y'all in the comment section. I consistently learn from you guys, so appreciate y'all. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. Let's start with the name that hit early and I think is an absolute stud, KC Concepcion. As a true freshman, we've talked about this kid a lot. I mean, led NC State in receiving yards, had over 100 targets as a true freshman, also led NC State in rushing yards as well. We've largely said this, that NC State offense in 2023, it ran through KC Concepcion when he was only a true freshman. Now, the production dipped a little bit in 2024. I thought that was a product of not him not being a good football player, more they had to go to a true freshman at quarterback. If you're looking for a game breaker that you can get involved in so many different ways, particularly with the football in his hands, KC Concepcion should be at the top of the list. Now, another new name that hit the transfer portal that I absolutely love. Let's talk about Kentucky wide receiver Barian Brown. He's been extremely productive all 3 years at Kentucky, despite just not great quarterback play at Kentucky over the last couple of years. 122 catches, over 1,500 yards during his first 3 seasons. And I think what excites me the most about Barian Brown, he's a game breaker with the speed that he has. Runs a 10.49 coming out of high school in the 100-meter dash, and that's not just track speed. That's real football speed. When you see this kid get the football in his hands, it's just a little bit of he just moves a little bit differently out there. And so, again, you're asking and looking for a wide receiver that, particularly with the football in their hands, can go and change a game with one play. Barian Brown's your guy. He's just going to be the fastest and one of the, not only straight line speed, but like the short area quicks, the ability to make people miss. Sometimes I think we put a little bit too much emphasis on track and field times. It's football speed. It is, I'm going to make you miss in a phone booth and I'm going to hit a big play. Really like Barian Brown. Another wide receiver that you could go back and forth. He's coming in at number 3 for me. I might be a little bit low on him. Dane Key. And it kind of depends on what kind of wide receiver you're looking for. Barian Brown, much more of a dynamic speedster. Dane Key, bigger bodied boundary wide receiver that excels working vertically down the field. Big frame, 6'3", 210, probably one of the better wide receivers in the portal in terms of contested catches. Another guy that over the last 3 years at Kentucky has been extremely productive, over 1,800 yards. What kind of wide receiver are you looking for? Are you looking for a playmaker with the football in their hands? Are you looking for a wide receiver that can work vertically down the field and take a top off the defense? Dane Key is probably the latter. Really big body with exceptional hands and body control in a better offense with better quarterback play. Dane Key, in my opinion, is an 1,000-yard pass catcher. Number 4, CJ Daniels at LSU. Really like CJ Daniels coming out of Liberty. Now, the one concern with CJ Daniels is probably wasn't as productive as I thought he was going to be at LSU coming from Liberty. And so he put up over 1,000 yards at Liberty in 2023 with Caden Salter throwing him the rock, transfers over to LSU. Their production and quote-unquote dominance dipped a little bit, as you would expect going from Conference USA to the SEC. But I think still really good football player, kind of like Dane Key. Big long body, but it's a big body, and he's physical at the catch point. I really like CJ Daniels. I think in an offense that needs a bigger body, boundary wide receiver, really good football player. Another one of those guys, we got back-to-back ones, Nic Anderson. And I think every single one of these wide receivers that we talked about has the ability to be a wide receiver one in the offense. They're different kind of wide receivers, but they're all, in my opinion, wide receiver ones. Nic Anderson, thought to be one of the better wide receivers in the country heading into the 2024 year, had an exceptional 2023 season, caught for over 750 yards, averaged over 21 yards per catch. He's long, he's big, he's physical, he excels working vertically down the field. Now, if there's a knock on Nic Anderson, it's probably two things. One, there's only one season of productivity, didn't play much as a freshman, balled out in 2023. It was kind of just hurt all year in 2024 with, I believe, what was a quad injury. So there's only one year of sample size of him really playing well in the Big 12 in 2023 for the Sooners. But what you saw from him in 2023 is elite. And I think the second knock on him is he might be a little bit more of a one-trick pony. And that's why I'm a little bit lower on Nic Anderson than I am at guys like Barry Brown and Dane Key. You don't see a ton of him creating a lot of separation underneath. He's kind of just a vertical threat kind of guy, which serves a role in an offense. There's no doubt about that. If he can make his game a little bit more well-rounded, he's going to be a very dangerous wide receiver wherever he ends up. And again, there are a laundry list of teams that are looking for the kind of wide receiver that Nic Anderson is. Going to number 6, a name that not many people have heard of, I am guessing. We've been talking a lot about him, Eric Rivers from FIU. G5 guy, extremely productive. And what I love most about Eric Rivers, he's a do-it-all wide receiver in my opinion. Now, I'll be the first one to admit I don't watch a ton of FIU football, but when I did check out Eric Rivers, there's two things that kind of came to my mind. One, he extremely productive, over 1,100 yards last year, averaging 18 yards per catch. He lives behind a defense. He just has a knack for getting behind defenses and working vertically down the field, but that's not all he does. He can create separation. He's a guy that can operate after the catch, over 400 yards after the catch as well last year. A little bit more of a well-rounded wide receiver. Now, the knock on him is, can you do it at the P4 level? We've seen a lot of, there's a strong track record of guys who have balled out at the G5, jumping up to the Power 4 and having really good years. Eric Rivers, to me, is going to be one of those guys. Now, is he a wide receiver one at the Power 4 level, like guys like KC Concepcion and Nic Anderson and CJ Daniels? I'm not sure, but I think he can be a very productive wide receiver at the Power 4 spot, or Power 4 level. Number 7, Micah Hudson. Projection here. Micah Hudson was a 5-star wide receiver in the 2024 class, went to Texas Tech, didn't really get much playing time. I love this kid coming out of high school. And quite frankly, I would have lumped him in. Everyone talked about Jeremiah Smith and Cam Coleman and Ryan Williams. I quite frankly thought Micah Hudson probably should have been lumped into that conversation. Now he goes to Texas Tech for whatever reason, doesn't get the opportunity that I thought he would get, and he's hitting the transfer portal. The knock on him is that he hasn't done it at the collegiate level yet. The pluses, big time upside. I mean, if this guy hits and finds a landing spot where he's getting opportunity and he maximizes the skill set that he has, really good football player, phenomenal body control, really good at the contested catch point, but also built like a running back, like 6 foot 195, kind of a thick lower half. He can operate after the catch as well. I think he's got every making of a wide receiver one. He's just got to put it together on the college football field. And if he does that, watch out for Micah Hudson. I think he can be a stud. Jonte Cook, another youngster going into year 3. So spent 2 years at Texas, 1.5 years, transferred in the middle of the season. The movement skills for me and Jonte Cook, it stands out. And if there's any Texas Longhorn fans listening at minute 9, I would love to hear from y'all. I was surprised Jonte Cook didn't get as much opportunity as he did. I thought you saw some really good things from him as a freshman. Thought he was going to be an integral part of the Texas offense in 2024. That didn't happen for whatever reason. The movement skills are incredible for this kid. Yes, he has straight line speed, but his ability to stop and start and change direction, whether it's creating separation and route tree, whether it's making people miss after the catch, one of those guys, kind of like I talked about Barry Brown, if you're looking for just a little bit of juice on offense, and I'm a Michigan fan, we're looking for some juice, Jonte Cook has all the juice that you would need. And again, the knock is haven't seen it at the collegiate level consistently yet, but you've seen the flashes. Number 9, excuse me, Logan Loya from UCLA. I like this kid a lot, and he's probably not going to be the most buzzy name that you see in the transfer portal. Been really productive for a couple of seasons for a while now at UCLA. Has dealt with some below average quarterback play, specifically in the 2024 year. I think a lot of UCLA fans would say this. He was a very important part to the UCLA offense. Now he's a kind of pigeonholed as a slot wide receiver, at least from what I've seen. I don't think has the upside of some of the other guys that we've talked about. Reliable pass catcher that will come up for you big on third and shorts. That there's a role for that in a lot of offenses. I think of him as kind of a watered down Xavier Restrepo, maybe a guy that maybe the physical traits aren't going to jump out at the on the paper to you. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, knows how to create separation, catches almost everything that comes his way. That's value for a college football team. He's not a wide receiver 1. He might not even be a wide receiver 2, but I think he can be a damn solid wide receiver 3 that gives you a lot of consistency in the pass catching department. Last one I want to talk about, Kobe Prentice, another guy that you've seen the flashes from at Alabama over the last 3 seasons. Hasn't necessarily put it together yet. 10.85 and the 100-meter dash coming out of the state of Alabama. You've seen the flashes of playmaker. You just haven't seen it all that consistently. I mean, freshman, sophomore year, I was really high on this kid and then just didn't get as much involved in the Alabama offense in 2024. Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams. I think there's some explanation for that. There's a lot of Power 4 programs that would welcome the playmaking ability and the speed that Kobe Prentice brings to the table. Though, I mean, I think we just went through 10 names, and it's not even fully open yet. It's 10 names that I think would upgrade 95% of wide receiver rooms across the country. It's harder to find starting offensive linemen. It's harder right now to find some starting quarterbacks. That wide receiver room, if you need it, go get it. Because I think there's a lot of difference makers at the wide receiver position that are currently available in the transfer portal. We'll continue to update it as it comes in. Wanted to hop on, talk about my favorite 10 wide receivers. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.